I remember the night like it was still alive. Thick fog curling along the Cornfield highway, swallowing the edges of my headlights. The air smelled damp, like the earth had been holding secrets under its breath. Every so often, a pale light flickered between the rows of stalks, too steady to be a passing car, too deliberate to be a reflection. I slowed the car, heart soft but curious, the engine humming like it was trying to warn me. Silence pressed against the glass, punctuated only by the rustling of the corn and the occasional distant buzz, like static electricity or something watching. I told myself it was nothing, just shadows, imagination, the way the mind twists in isolation. But then the light paused directly beside my window. It didn't move with the wind. It didn't shimmer like the fog. And when I turned to look into the rear-view mirror, I thought I saw something crouching between the stalks, elongated limbs, pale and impossible. My breath caught. I shouldn't have opened the door. I shouldn't have stepped out onto the wet asphalt, where every step echoed into nothing. Yet curiosity, stubborn and fragile, pulled me forward. That's when I saw it, hovering just above the horizon, its shape blurring the line between nightmare and memory. And I knew, somehow, this road had been waiting for me. The car stopped without warning. Fog rolled in thick, swallowing the edges of the road. Even the trees seemed muted, their branches heavy with silence. I stepped out. The air was damp, smelling faintly of earth and something older, metallic, like rusted wire left in the rain. Cornfield stretched on either side, stalks whispering together in a language I didn't know. A flicker of pale light caught my eye, far off, between the rows. It pulsed once, twice, and then disappeared behind shadow. I thought about calling for help, but my voice felt wrong in the mist. Even the wind seemed intentional, brushing against my neck like a cold fingertip. I shivered. Something moved among the stalks. Not wind, not animal. A shadow, swift, slinking. It vanished before I could focus, leaving only rustling that didn't match the rhythm of the breeze. I took a step forward. The corn whispered my name. Soft, almost tender. I froze. The light flickered again. Closer this time, as if the cornfield itself were guiding me. I strained to see through the fog, but everything blurred. Shapes merged with the stalks. A hand, maybe, or just a trick of the mist. My skin prickled. The fog pressed against my ears, carrying the faintest echoes of laughter or crying. I couldn't tell. And then silence, so thick I could hear the blood pulsing in my temples. I moved slowly, footsteps careful, dragging along the damp earth. Every time I thought I saw something, it was gone. The field was alive, but not in any way I knew. A chill ran down my spine. The air smelled faintly metallic now, like something had been unearthed beneath the soil. I reached out instinctively, brushing my fingers against the stalks. The corn shivered in response. Another flicker of light. This time it lingered just beyond my reach. I felt drawn to it, yet my instinct screamed to turn back. The whispers returned. Closer, louder, but still soft, threading around my ears. It wasn't words. Not exactly. But I understood in a way that made my stomach tighten. Something brushed past my arm. I spun. Nothing. The fog thickened, pressing in from all sides. The stalks bent slightly, rustling like they were alive. I took another step. A shadow darted again, more deliberate this time. It paused just out of reach, as if observing me, judging me. The lights flickered one last time before vanishing entirely. Darkness swallowed the field. I could no longer see the road behind me, only the fog stretching endlessly. Even the whispers had gone, leaving only the wind and a soft, lingering hum that I couldn't place. I froze. The silence felt heavy. I realized I was utterly alone, yet not alone at all. The cornfield waited. And then, from somewhere deep inside the mist, a voice called my name again. Soft, insistent, closer than I had imagined. I didn't move. I couldn't. The fog shivered. The stalks whispered. And the pale lights, they were watching. The highway stretched out, endless and empty, slick with the reflection of faint moonlight. The engine hummed, steady, but not comforting. Fog lingered at the edges of the road, curling around the guardrails like pale fingers. The radio sputtered. Static filled the cabin. Soft murmurs leaked through the white noise, twisting and curling around my thoughts. I didn't recognize the language. It was guttural, melodic, impossible place, and yet somehow intimate, as if it knew me. The lights ahead pulsed strangely, not from street lamps, not from signs. A pale, hypnotic glow washed over the asphalt, bending the edges of the road. Each pulse seemed to breathe in rhythm with my own heartbeat. I slowed. The figure appeared, floating above the lanes. Not walking, not running, hovering, silhouetted by the unnatural glow. It was just beyond clear shape. The fog hugged it, making it shift and shimmer like smoke. I blinked. It was closer than I thought, but impossible to reach. Every time my headlights fell on it, it flickered, like a broken reflection in water. The air felt heavier, as if the mist itself had weight, pressing against my chest. The murmuring from the radio grew, overlapping my thoughts. Words I didn't understand formed in my mind before I could speak. A cold sweat prickled at my neck. I gripped the wheel tighter, but the car's vibrations felt dull, distant. I tried to move forward. The glow pulsed in response, pulsing under my tires, as if the road itself breathed. The figure drifted slowly, perfectly aligned with my path. Every instinct screamed to look away, but I couldn't. Static erupted. The voice from the radio seemed to echo my own breathing, matching my pulses. A shiver ran down my spine. I caught a fleeting reflection in the rear view. Something not mine, just for a moment, gone the next. The fog thickened, curling around tires, around the mirrors. Shadows stretched unnaturally, clinging to the edges of the glow. I wanted to scream. My voice seemed trapped inside me. The figure hovered closer, unnervingly silent now, watching. The hum of the tires on wet asphalt became distant, replaced by a low vibration in my skull. Something internal, something alive. I slowed further. The glow pulsed again, soft and hypnotic, like it wanted me to follow. My hands shook. The whispers from the radio melted into a hum I could feel in my chest. Time warped. The lines on the road curved impossibly. The mist thickened, swallowing the edges of reality. The figure floated a hair's breadth above the asphalt, perfectly still, but moving with the pulses of the light. I wanted to look away. I couldn't. Every fiber of me felt drawn, compelled, tethered to the shimmer and the murmuring. Then, without warning, it vanished. The glow collapsed, leaving the highway dim and empty. The static hissed, then cut entirely. Only the engine hummed. Only the mist clung to the edges of the road. And only the echo of a presence lingered, unseen, but unmistakably there. I exhaled. But the pulse remained in my chest. The memory of a figure floating in the light pressed in. I drove on. The fog swallowed the road, thick and indifferent. And somewhere behind the static, the whispers waited. Fog thickened around the car, curling in from the fields, heavy and cold. The world beyond the windshield disappeared, reduced to muted gray shapes. Even the road seemed hesitant, swallowed by the mist. I stepped out, boots sinking slightly into damp soil. The corn stretched endlessly, stalks bending under invisible weight. A soft, rustling whispered to the rows, slow, deliberate. No wind moved, yet the sound persisted. Then I saw them. 2 eyes, unblinking, pale, reflecting the faint glow of the fog, fixed on me. They weren't high in the stalks, not low either. Just there, waiting. My chest tightened. Every instinct screamed to run. But the ground beneath me seemed to shift subtly, urging me closer. The rustling grew, though the air remained still. Every step I took made the sound multiply, echoing around me. It was as if the field itself watched, anticipating. I focused on the eyes. They didn't blink. They didn't move. Yet I felt them tracing me, following each breath, each twitch of my hand. The fog thickened around them, turning them into distant lanterns floating in gray. A shadow passed between the rows. Quick, slender, almost human, but not. The air smelled metallic now, faint and sharp. I recoiled slightly, but my feet stayed rooted. Something pressed against my arm. I flinched. Nothing was there. The corn swayed gently, though the air remained still. A whisper followed, a sound of exhaled breath unplaceable just behind me. I crouched slightly to peer through the stalks. The eyes remained unblinking, glowing faintly, growing brighter with every heartbeat. I felt a presence close, invisible yet tangible. Something wanted me to see, to understand. The fog moved differently around them, edges warped, shadows twisted unnaturally. I blinked. When I opened my eyes, the eyes had shifted, closer, almost imperceptibly, but enough. I stepped back. The soil was soft, clinging to my shoes. Every crunch of earth sounded amplified, echoing in the silence. The whispers returned, soft, fragmented, like words I almost recognized. I couldn't place them, but I felt understood and unsettled all at once. A cold finger of air brushed my neck. I spun. The eyes stayed. Everything else had vanished. Even the shadows seemed frozen, awaiting my next move. I moved slowly, tracing a path through the corn. Each step made the stalks shiver against me, brushing my arms like fingertips. The eyes followed, patient, silent, unwavering. The rustling grew louder, though the air remained still. Then I noticed the fog inside the field. It moved with intention, curling around the stalks, forming shapes, human-like, yet impossibly thin. I imagined reaching out, touching one. The air grew colder. A soft humming joined the whispers, resonating deep inside my chest. I wanted to turn back. The road beyond the field was just a gray smudge. I wanted to leave, but something held me, tethered to the glow of those unblinking eyes. I stopped. The mist pressed closer, cool and damp, thick against my skin. The eyes remained, watching, waiting. I realized I wasn't alone. Not just the eyes. The field itself was alive, and it remembered me. I stepped back once more. The fog shifted, hiding everything but the two pale lights. The rustling faded to a whisper, fading slowly into the oppressive silence. I retraced my steps to the road, heart hammering, feeling those eyes burning into my back. Even as I left the field, the memory lingered, a soft brush of breath against my ear, a shiver crawling down my spine, and the unmistakable feeling of being followed, long after the fog swallowed the cornfield whole. The road narrowed, flanked by endless rows of corn. Night pressed down, heavy and still. The moon was hidden, and the fog clung to everything, fields, fences, even the tires of the car. I saw the barn first. Forgotten, weathered, its silhouette wavered in the fog, faintly outlined by flickers of light inside. Strange symbols, sharp and jagged, glowed faintly on the wood, as if etched into grain itself. The air smelled of old timber and rain-soaked earth. I stepped closer, boots crunching softly on gravel. The wind held its breath. Even the corn stalk seemed to lean in, curious. A shadow moved, detached from moonlight, independent, sliding across the barn side. It flickered once, then vanished behind the doorway. I reached for the handle. Cold, metal, damp with condensation. My fingers trembled. Something brushed past my arm. Quick, faint, almost tender. But the touch left a trail of ice crawling down my spine. Inside, the air smelled metallic, like blood and rain mixed with iron. Shadows stretched long, twisting in ways the walls didn't allow. I moved cautiously, each step echoing softly against the wooden floorboards. The symbols on the walls pulsed faintly, illuminating shapes just out of clarity. Shapes that shouldn't exist. I heard the rustle first. Slow, deliberate, coming from the far corner. The darkness that was deep in the rest, almost liquid, folding over itself. I could feel eyes on me, unblinking, watching from places unseen. A flicker of light drew me forward. The barn seemed alive, breathing softly, expanding and contracting with some hidden rhythm. The floorboards groaned under my weight, responding as if conscious. I reached the center of the room. Nothing. And yet, I knew I wasn't alone. A faint brush of air, like someone exhaling right behind me. I spun. Shadows clung to the corners, stretching unnaturally. They moved against the wall's angles, dissolving when I tried to focus. The symbols glowed again. Their shapes seemed to rise slightly, forming patterns my mind couldn't hold. I wanted to step back, but some invisible force pressed me forward, drawing me deeper. Then the brush returned, gentle but deliberate, sliding across my arm as if confirming my presence. I froze. The barn held its breath, every shadow still, every corner waiting. The symbols pulsed once more, briefly, bright and harsh, and then dimmed. Silence stretched, thick and heavy. The floorboards no longer creaked under my weight. Even the wind had vanished. It felt as though the barn itself was listening, waiting. I tried to call out, but my voice was swallowed by the space, lost among the whispering shadows. Something shifted behind me. I turned. Nothing. And yet, I could feel the movement, subtle, deliberate, like the brush of feathers against my skin. The fog outside crept in through cracks in the wooden walls, curling around my legs and rising like smoke. The barn pulsed with that same faint rhythm as the light flickered again. Shadows elongated, twisting into shapes that almost resembled people, but not quite. I wanted to run, but my feet were heavy, as if the floor had become wet clay. I exhaled slowly, trying to steady my racing heart. The symbols flickered one last time. Then, all at once, everything froze. No wind, no rustle, no hum, only silence and the faint metallic scent lingering in the corners. I backed away, each step careful, deliberate, tracing the path I'd taken. The shadows followed in silence, dissolving whenever I looked directly at them. The brush of cold air remained, gentle and almost mocking, trailing along my spine. Outside, the fog had thickened. The barn's shape wavered in the mist, almost imperceptible, like a mirage. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see if the shadows followed beyond the doorway. As I reached the road, the metallic smell faded slightly, replaced by damp earth and corn. The symbols' glow lingered behind me in memory, pulsing faintly, as if carved into my mind rather than the wood. The barn stood silent, yet alive, holding secrets I could feel but never name. I drove away slowly, the fog swallowing the headlights, the barn fading into pale gray. But even as the distance grew, I knew it waited, patient, silent, and aware of every step I took. The road stretched on, empty and silent, except for the steady hum of the engine. Night had settled deep, thick and heavy, pressing against my chest. Fog clung to trees, curling around their trunks like slow fingers reaching out. At first, I thought it was a car, a low vibration, steady and persistent, as if the tires hummed in rhythm with something unseen. But soon it became clear. The hum wasn't coming from the engine. It was inside my skull, a constant, pulsing vibration that settled deep behind my eyes, threading through my temples. I pressed my palms to my ears, trying to smother it. The vibration didn't lessen. If anything, it grew. The trees leaned closer. Branches stretched unnaturally over the road, swaying though the air was still. Shadows shifted along the edges, independent of moonlight or fog. Something followed me. I could feel it, just beyond the reach of sight. I glanced at the mirrors. Reflection seemed delayed, almost hesitant. The road behind me shimmered slightly, bending in ways that made my stomach twist. A faint metallic tang entered my nose, sharp and sudden. I swallowed hard. The hum deepened. It pulsed with the rhythm of my heartbeat, mocking, invasive. Every mile I drove, it lingered, stretching longer, pressing heavier against the edges of thought. I tried to focus on the road. The lines blurred. The fog thickened. A shape flickered in the corner of my vision. Tall, thin, hovering at the edge of the tree line. I blinked. Gone. The road ahead remained empty, though the feeling of eyes, countless, patient, followed. I reached for the radio. Static, brief murmurs, unintelligible, curling around my skull like smoke. Then silence. The hum remained, persistent, relentless. I slowed. The tires whispered against the asphalt, soft and distant, swallowed by the vibration in my head. Every shadow of a tree seemed to twitch independently, leaning closer, folding into shapes I didn't want to name. I exhaled. The air felt thick, almost viscous. Each breath pulled against an invisible weight. The hum resonated with it, pressing deep into my chest. A sudden flash of movement, something brushing past a side mirror. I jerked the wheel. Nothing, but the sensation lingered. Fingertips brushing my shoulder, a sigh against the nape of my neck. The hum shifted, not just vibration anymore. Now there was a tone, low, metallic, almost melodic, echoing deep inside. It was as if the world itself had started to sing in resonance with my fear. I tried to speak. My voice caught in my throat, swallowed by the fog and the vibration. I want to call out, to name it, to anchor myself. But the words dissolved before forming. The trees leaned closer still. Branches scraped against each other softly, whispering in rhythm with the hum. Shadows pooled beneath their trunks, waiting, patient. The road felt alive. Beneath the tires, I could feel it pulse, responding to my movements, anticipating, almost sentient. I gripped the wheel tighter, knuckles white, breath shallow. Each mile seemed longer than the last. Then a brief calm. The hum softened, echoing gently through the skull, almost comforting, almost inviting. I thought about stopping, but instinct screamed against it. The trees straightened slightly. The shadows retreated, dissolving into fog. Yet the vibration remained constant, threading through my thoughts, into my chest and under my skin. I realized, with a sinking certainty, that it would not leave. Not when I drove. Not when I slept. Not ever. I exhaled again. The fog swallowed the road ahead. The headlights cut weakly through gray nothingness. I pressed forward, the low hum pressing along with me, insistent, inescapable, alive. And somewhere just beyond sight, the trees leaned a little closer, listening, waiting. Fog hung low over the fields, thick and clinging, curling around every stalk. The car had long since become a distant memory. The road swallowed by gray mist. The air was damp, carrying the sharp scent of wet soil and something faintly metallic. I stepped into Cornfield. The stalks rustled softly, brushing against my arms like careful fingers. Every step sank slightly into the softened earth, leaving small impressions behind. Then I saw the lights, lantern-like, hovering midfield, pale and flickering, as if the fog itself had captured them. They weren't high, not above the stalks, but at eye level, bobbing gently. I froze, heart tightening. They didn't seem natural. They didn't behave like fire or electricity. I stepped closer. The soil smelled metallic, sharp, warning me to stay back. The lights wavered as I approached, fading at the edges like candle flames in the wind. And then, suddenly, they vanished. I blinked. The field was empty. Just fog, just rustling stalks. I took another step forward. The lanterns reappeared, hovering, teasing, just out of reach. They pulsed faintly, almost as if breathing. Each pulse pulled at something inside me, a strange curiosity I couldn't resist. The whispers returned, soft, fragmented. They threaded around my ears and chest, echoing between the stalks. I couldn't understand them, but I felt acknowledged, observed. The fog thickened around my legs, brushing with the same intent as the corn. I could feel shapes moving just beyond the lights, fleeting shadows indistinct, human-like, but impossibly thin. Every instinct screamed to retreat, but my feet were slow, rooted by fascination and unease. I reached toward the nearest lantern. The light flickered violently, then disappeared entirely. A cold gust swept through the rows, brushing my neck and sending a shiver down my spine. The rustling stalks whispered behind me, as if laughing. I stumbled forward. The ground smelled sharper now, like iron beneath the soil. Another lantern appeared, hovering near my face for a heartbeat, bright and hollow, then gone. I tried to track it, but the fog twisted my vision. The lights were everywhere and nowhere. A soft hum began, low and insistent. It vibrated through my chest and into the soles of my boots. The air grew thicker, almost liquid around me. Each heartbeat synced with the pulsing of the lights. I stopped, overwhelmed. The fog swirled at ankle height, curling and rising around the lanterns. They hovered patiently, teasing, a circle of pale, blinking eyes without bodies. The whispers threaded into my mind now, soft, almost comforting, yet entirely wrong. I realized I couldn't see the edges of the field. The corn seemed endless. The lights guided me or lured me deeper into mist. Every step forward brought another lantern, fading, vanishing, leaving me disoriented. Something brushed past my arm again, quicker this time. I spun. Nothing. But the metallic smell intensified, a warning or reminder that the field was alive, aware. The lanterns pulsed one last time. I took a step toward them. Gravity seemed to hesitate. The soil beneath me felt slick, unfamiliar. Then they vanished entirely. The field returned to gray fog and rustling stalks. Silence pressed around me, thick and heavy. The hum lingered faintly in my chest, a memory of the light's pulse. I stumbled backward, retracing my steps, leaving impressions in the soft earth. The fog swallowed the path behind me. The stalks whispered softly, brushing against my arms. Following, the metallic scent faded, but the memory remained. Even as I reached the edge of the field, I knew they had not gone. The lanterns waited, patient, observing. And somewhere beyond sight, the whispers waited too, threading through the fog, shaping the field itself. I stepped onto the road, heart pounding, fog curling around my legs, leaving the field behind. But the pulse of the lanterns remained, a rhythm deep inside my chest. And I knew, with a quiet certainty, that I would feel it again. The diner appeared suddenly, a small rectangle of light in the fog. I pulled into the lot, tires crunching on wet gravel. The smell of coffee and fried food drifted faintly, muted by the damp air. Inside, the place was quiet, almost too quiet. Waiters moved with practiced ease, trays clinking softly, voices hushed. Other customers sipped coffee, stared at menus, oblivious to the fog pressing against the windows. I sat at a booth near the glass, watching the mist swirl outside. My hands rested on the table, sticky from condensation. The warmth inside was comforting, but fragile, like a thin sheet stretched over the night. Then I saw it. A figure pressed its hands against the glass from outside, pale, almost translucent. Fingers splayed, pressing flat against the window, leaving faint smears like frost. It didn't move closer. It didn't speak. It just stared, or so I thought. The air shifted. Cold seeped through the glass, brushing my forearms. I swallowed. The figure vanished. I blinked. The diners around me continued eating, talking softly, unaware. I wanted to point, to warn someone, but my voice caught in my throat. The booth felt suddenly small, fragile, as if it could collapse under the weight of the fog outside. I returned my gaze to the window. Nothing. The fog swirled, silver gray, hiding the edges of the parking lot. And yet, I felt it watching just beyond the glass. A soft tapping began, faint at first, then deliberate, on the window frame. A rhythm, slow, patient. My stomach tightened. I leaned closer. Nothing visible, but the cold lingered, brushing along my neck, crawling across my hands. The tapping stopped. Then a faint breath, impossible to locate, pressed against my ear. The fog thickened outside. Shapes moved behind the diner's pale lights. Figures too thin, too fleeting, shifting with the mist. I wanted to look away. My eyes remained fixed on the window, expecting something that wasn't there, yet knowing it would come. A hand appeared again, smaller this time, fragile, pressing briefly against the glass before vanishing once more. I realized I couldn't blink. Each time my eyes closed, the memory of it lingered, floating in the corner of vision. The waiters move around me, clinking dishes, low murmurs. Oblivious, the diners sipped their coffee, talked about nothing. Everything normal, and yet impossible. I pressed my palms to the glass. The warmth from inside didn't reach me. The fog seemed to coil around the window frame, pressing against my fingers. A faint metallic tang entered my nose, like the memory of iron left out in rain. I turned slightly, thinking to leave. The figure was gone, but the feeling remained, a shadow that didn't belong, lingering just beyond perception. A soft pull, like a breath on the back of my neck. The light outside flickered. The diner's interior warped briefly in the reflection, shadows stretching unnaturally. I shook my head, trying to dismiss it, but the pale hands were still there in memory, pressing against the glass, waiting. I left the tip, grabbed my coat, and slipped into the fog. The world outside swallowed me quickly, cold and damp. The diner receded behind me, a faint glow fading into gray. Even as I walked away, I could feel eyes following, not human, not alive, but patient, waiting. The fog pressed in, curling around my legs and arms. The sound of my own footsteps felt amplified, sharp against the heavy silence. Every corner of the mist seemed to shift as I moved. The memory of those pale hands lingered, pressing against the inside of my mind. I turned back once. Nothing, but the feeling of being watched, of something waiting just beyond vision, didn't fade. And somewhere, faintly, the soft tapping echoed again, long after the figure disappeared. The cornfield stretched on, silent beneath a sky swallowed by fog. I walked slowly, boots sinking into damp soil, the stalks brushing against my arms like soft, cold hands. A faint metallic smell lingered in the air, sharper than before, making my stomach tighten. Then I saw the marks. Burned, charred impressions scattered across the soil. They were fresh, smoldering faintly in the damp night air. The patterns were unfamiliar, jagged and precise, like something had fallen from above. The fog clung closer to the ground, curling around the edges of the burns. A low hum vibrated beneath my feet, not from the earth, not mechanical. It resonated in my chest, pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat, echoing in my skull. I stopped listening. The hum seemed alive, shifting subtly with every movement I made. I noticed shapes moving in the mist, faint silhouettes between the stalks, shifting quickly, vanishing when I blinked. Human-like, but too thin, too elongated. They left no footprints, no sound, only the rustle of corn that didn't match the wind. I stepped closer to the largest burn mark. It radiated heat faintly, but no smoke rose. The soil smelled sharply metallic here, acrid, like burnt copper. Something about it made my hair stand on end, prickling across my arms and neck. The hum grew louder. It threaded into my thoughts, pulling at the edges of reason. Every instinct told me to step back, to run. But curiosity rooted me to the spot, cold and insistent. A shadow moved along the edge of the field. It flickered, distorted, hovering in a way that defied gravity. I blinked. Gone. The fog shifted in its place, curling like smoke around a hidden form. I turned slowly, scanning the rows of corn. Every stalk seemed to lean slightly, swaying in rhythm with the hum. The eyes, glimpsed briefly in the mist, followed me, unblinking, patient. I felt the air thicken around my chest, pressing in with quiet insistence. A faint metallic whisper cut through the hum, soft, deliberate, almost like words, but I couldn't comprehend them. They seemed to echo inside my skull, overlapping my thoughts. I realized I was answering in my mind before I had spoken, a voice I didn't own yet mine. The fog thickened at ankle height, curling around my legs. I felt shapes move in tandem with it, fleeting glimpses of limbs human-like but impossibly thin. Every time I blinked, the figures shifted, reappeared closer, just beyond reach. The hum pulsed in rhythm with the burn marks. It was as if the earth itself remembered something, vibrating with memory, with intent. I crouched slightly, trying to see into the mist, to understand what had landed here. The air smelled sharp, metallic, electric. Then I saw it, a pale shimmer, hovering just above the largest burn mark. Not human, not solid. It flickered like light trapped in water, casting shadows that didn't belong. The mist coiled around it, almost protective, almost curious. The hum grew, resonating deeper in my chest, pulsing with the glow of the figure. I wanted to reach out. Instinct screamed against it. My hand hovered above the ground. The figure pulsed again. The fog thickened suddenly, obscuring everything but the burn marks and the faint shimmer. A cold brush ran along my arm. I spun. Nothing. Only the rustling corn, the lingering metallic scent, and the hum vibrating faintly in my skull. The figure vanished. The burn marks remained, still faintly warm, still impossibly precise. The fog shifted back, curling around the stalks. Everything else returned to normal, or as normal as a night could be after witnessing something impossible. I walked back toward the road, the hum fading slowly, lingering faintly in my chest. Every step carried a memory of the landing, of the shapes in the fog, of the metallic whispers threading through my mind. The cornfields swallowed my footprints as if they had never been there. And somewhere deep in the mist, the presence waited, patient, silent, remembering. Even from the road, I could feel it, watching, waiting, echoing. The fog pressed close along the highway, thick and unyielding. Headlights barely cut through it. A pale glow smeared across the asphalt. The lines of the road curved strangely, bending in ways that made my stomach twist. I glanced in the rearview mirror. My reflection blinked once, and then something moved that I hadn't. A subtle twitch of shoulder, a shift in posture. I jerked, but my body didn't match the motion. The fog wrapped around the car, curling over the mirrors and windshield. Every sound seemed distant, muffled. Even the tires on wet asphalt felt like they existed in another world. The reflection changed again. The figure in the mirror leaned closer, but I had not moved. I tried to look away, but my eyes betrayed me, drawn back. The fog behind the glass twisted, and the road seemed to dissolve into gray nothingness. I exhaled slowly. The air felt thick, heavy in my lungs, carrying the faint metallic tang of rain-soaked earth. The hum of the engine felt distant, almost irrelevant, as if the car existed separately from me. The fog shifted outside. Shadows stretched along the edges of the highway, clinging to the white lines. They moved independently of anything physical, folding over themselves, elongating, retreating. I could feel them observing, patient and unblinking. A flash in the mirrors made me blink. The road behind was no longer the road I had come from. Twists and curves appeared where straight lanes should have been. Signs warped and flickered. Unfamiliar symbols I couldn't read. The fog clung to them, curling and twisting around the edges. I pressed my hands to the wheel, knuckles white. Each heartbeat echoed in the stillness. The reflection moved again. Not just mine. Another figure, shadowed, lingering just behind my movements. It mimicked me perfectly, but its presence felt wrong, distorted, unreal. I tried to speak. No sound came. The fog outside pressed closer, curling around the car, wrapping the tires in gray coils. I realized with a tightening in my chest that the highway itself felt alive. The asphalt pulsed faintly under the tires, as if it could feel my fear, respond to it. The mirrors shimmered. I saw reflections of things that weren't there. Pale lights hovering just off the shoulder. Shadowy shapes stretching and bending, moving like liquid. Every blink hid them. Every blink revealed something new. I slowed. The road ahead rippled slightly, bending in impossible ways, like a heat haze, but colder, heavier. The reflection of my hands on the wheels shifted independently, twitching, anticipating. I tried to focus on the lanes, but they curved strangely, dissolving into gray fog. A low hum rose, vibrating inside my chest. Not mechanical, not wind. It resonated in my skull, threading through every nerve. The mirrors reflected the road, but not the world around me. I realized I had no idea if the highway continued, if the fog ever ended. I glanced at the passenger side mirror. The reflection was wrong. Everything outside looked slightly delayed, like reality had stretched. The fog twisted, and for a heartbeat, I thought I saw someone walking alongside the car, not moving forward, not retreating, just floating, just observing. The fog thickened. My pulse quickened. The mirrors no longer reflected the car accurately. Edges rippled, bending into shapes I couldn't name. And yet, I couldn't look away. I exhaled. The world outside the windshield dissolved into gray mist. Only the distorted reflections remained. Only the lingering hum pressed against my chest. And somewhere deep, just beyond vision, I knew the highway watched. Every line on the asphalt trembled beneath the tires. Every shadow leaned closer. The reflection in the mirror, it waited. The highway stretched empty ahead, slick and silver in the dim fog. Tires hissed softly against wet asphalt. The hum from the car settled in my chest, low and persistent. Then I saw the lights. Another vehicle. Bright. Too bright. Cutting through the mist like a blade. It moved unnaturally, smooth and deliberate, with no sound from tires or engine. The glow of its headlights felt wrong. Too steady. Too white. I followed. Curiosity mingled with unease. The car seemed drawn to it. Compelled. The fog swirled around the edges of the highway, thickening with every mile. The truck maintained distance. Not too far. Not too close. It floated over the lines, ignoring the curves of the road. Each pulse of its lights felt intentional, hypnotic. I blinked. When I opened my eyes, the truck was closer. Or maybe it had always been. The fog distorted distances, curling and twisting around its form. I tried to call out. Nothing left my throat. My hands tightened on the wheel. Every instinct screamed that this was not normal, not natural. The highway bent subtly beneath the tires, edges shimmering in the fog. The truck stayed perfectly aligned, gliding over impossible angles. Every light pulse seemed to beckon me, drawing me deeper into the gray. I shifted gears, keeping pace. It mirrored me exactly, floating effortlessly. No sound, no wake, just lights cutting clean lines through the fog, like eyes staring, observing. The air thickened. The metallic scent returned, sharp, acrid. I felt it on my tongue, on my skin, pressing into my senses. The fog pressed closer, curling against the tires, moving with a purpose. A sudden movement in the mirrors. Something shifted behind me. Not the truck. Something else. A shadow, fleeting, human-like, but impossibly thin. I jerked my head. Gone. The truck disappeared. 1 second it glowed ahead, perfect and unnatural. The next, nothing. The fog swallowed it completely, leaving only gray emptiness. I slowed instinctively. The road ahead shimmered faintly, like it had never been solid at all. My breath felt loud in the cabin. The hum in my chest continued, a steady pulse matching my racing heartbeat. The metallic tang lingered, sharper now, mixing with the damp smell of the asphalt. I glanced at the mirrors. Nothing, but I could feel eyes, patient and unblinking, tracking my every movement. I pressed forward cautiously. The road seemed longer, stretching unnaturally into the fog. Every line on the asphalt blurred, rippling beneath the tires. I realized I couldn't tell if I was moving or still. The memory of the truck's lights burned in my vision, bright, unnatural, too deliberate. Every pulse seemed etched into my mind, lingering like a rhythm I couldn't shake. I exhaled slowly. The fog remained thick, curling against the sides of the road. Shadows shifted at the edges of perception, vanishing when I tried to focus. The metallic scent faded slightly, but the feeling persisted. I drove on. The memory of the vanishing truck clung to me, quiet but insistent. Every mile carried the weight of its presence. And somewhere in the fog, I knew it waited, patient, silent, and perfectly still. The fog rolled low, thick and suffocating, curling around the corn stalks like ghostly fingers. Each step into the field sank slightly into damp soil. The air smelled metallic, faintly burnt and heavy with the promise of something unseen. Then I noticed them, thousands of tiny eyes, glowing faintly between the stalks. Small, pale, unblinking, all staring, all still. I froze. The corn whispered softly, brushing my arms with deliberate intent. No wind moved. No rustling matched the rhythm of the stalks. The eyes, they watched anyway. I stepped forward. One stalk bent under my hand. The glow of the eyes multiplied, shifting as if they were counting my steps. A chill ran down my spine. I tried to look away. Impossible. Every time I turned, more eyes emerged. Tiny, patient, luminous. I realized the field was alive, not with animals, not with wind, but with awareness. A soft hum began, low, vibrating beneath my feet, threading through the soil into my chest. The metallic scent deepened, sharper now, tangling with a damp, earthy smell. I swallowed hard. Shapes flickered in the fog, thin, human-like, but impossibly distorted. They moved at the edges of the field, watching, merging into the stalks. Every blink revealed more eyes, more presence, all patient, all waiting. I wanted to move, but the ground clung to my boots, heavy, unyielding. The fog pressed in, curling around my legs, weaving to the corn, insulating me from escape. The eyes shifted subtly, collectively, following my movements with unnerving precision. It wasn't just watching. It was aware, intentional. I felt its gaze burrow into my mind, tracing my thoughts, predicting my actions. I stepped back. The soft intensified, threading inside my skull. A faint brush along my arm made me flinch. No one was there. The fog thickened, twisting around the stalks, shaping shadows into forms that shouldn't exist. I realized I couldn't leave the memory of this. Even if I walked out of the field, even if I drove away, the eyes would remain. Patient, watching. I crouched slightly, trying to make myself small, inconspicuous. But the glow intensified, spreading across the field like a tide of pale, blinking lights. Rustling followed, slow, deliberate, echoing between stalks. No wind moved. Nothing alive should have been there. A subtle vibration threaded through the soil, pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat. The metallic scent sharpened, biting, filling the air around me. The eyes, they were everywhere now, even where the fog was thickest, even in the corners of vision I couldn't focus on. I felt my skin crawl. Every hair stood on end. Every nerve thrummed with tension. The field waited. It didn't just watch. It remembered. I backed away slowly. The fog thickened further, curling like smoke over the soil, hiding the edges of the cornfield. But the eyes remained, countless, patient, unblinking. I reached the road. The damp asphalt felt solid beneath my feet, grounding me briefly. But the memory of those eyes clung to my mind, heavy, impossible to shake. Even as I drove away, the glow lingered, in reflections of puddles. In the corner of my vision, even after the fog swallowed the field entirely, I felt them watching, patient, aware. I realized I would never forget this night. The 1,000 tiny lights in the cornfield, the rustling that followed nothing, the hum in the soil, the patient gaze of something that was not alive, yet fully aware. And I knew, as I drove on into the fog, that I had not left entirely. A part of me remained behind, among the glowing eyes, waiting. The fog pressed thick against the trees, curling between their trunks like smoke. The road beneath my tires felt soft, almost breathing, as though the asphalt itself waited. The air smelled damp, metallic, faintly like earth after rain. I stepped out, boots sinking slightly into the wet soil. Shadows stretched along the edges of the field, not cast by the moon, not by anything I could see. They moved independently, slipping across the ground, folding over themselves, dissolving when approached. I froze. A whisper of movement brushed past my arm. Nothing tangible, just a sense of presence. Patient, waiting. The shadows twisted between the stalks, elongating, flattening, merging with the fog. I could feel their gaze, though I saw no eyes. Something about their silence pressed in, heavy and deliberate. I tried to take a step forward. The ground shifted subtly, unsteady, like it had a mind of its own. The shadows flinched as if they noticed, then stretched again, slower this time, patient, careful. The rustling of corn stalks filled the silence, slow and rhythmic, deliberate. No wind moved, yet the stalks whispered along the edges of perception. Something in the air hummed faintly, metallic, threading through the fog and pressing at the back of my skull. I crouched slightly, tried to make myself small, invisible. The shadows gathered near, elongating toward me in unnatural ways. Each movement was precise, deliberate, as if aware of my weight, my breath, my heartbeat. I exhaled. A cool brush slid across my neck. Not wind, not leaves. The shadows reached without touching, pressing awareness into me. I moved again, slowly. Every step echoed faintly against a silent field. The shadows flickered, stretching and receding in a rhythm I couldn't predict. The fog shifted around them, curling in tendrils, hiding their forms, revealing them just long enough to be seen. The metallic tang lingered in the air, sharper now, tangling with the earthy smell of damp soil. I realized the shadows weren't just attached to objects. They were aware, waiting. I stopped. The field seemed to pause with me. No sound except the soft rustle of corn and the faint hum threading through the fog. Every shadow pressed closer without moving, filling the edges of my vision. A single line of fog rolled past my face. Inside it, I thought I saw shapes human-like but wrong. Thin, elongated, watching. The shadows folded into the fog, merging, hiding, waiting. I stepped back carefully. The ground clung to my boots. Every footprint I left seemed to vanish almost instantly, swallowed by the soft earth. The shadows followed silently, dissolving whenever I looked directly at them, reforming when I blinked. The fog thickened. The low metallic hum pulsed faintly, threading through my chest, vibrating along my spine. It seemed synchronized with the movement of the shadows. Alive, sentient, patient, I turned toward the road. The fog swallowed the distance. The shadows remained, lingered, waiting. Even from the car, I could feel them, outside the window, in the gray mist curling around the tires, stretching along the trees, not chasing, not attacking, just observing. And I knew the field would remember me. Every step, every breath, every heartbeat. I drove away slowly. The road beneath the tires seemed unnaturally quiet. Yet I could feel the pressure of the shadows pressing just beyond sight. The metallic tang faded, but the presence did not. I glanced back once. The fog had swallowed everything, but I could still feel it. Patient, waiting, as if the shadows themselves had folded into my memory, lingering long after I had left. The asphalt shimmered beneath the headlights, wet and dark. The road stretched ahead, straight, yet alive somehow, pulsing faintly under the tires. Fog rolled in from the fields, curling over the lines, thick and suffocating. I felt it first through the tires. A subtle vibration, slow and rhythmic, like the road inhaled and exhaled beneath me. Not the engine, not the hum of motion. The asphalt itself seemed aware. Each mile stretched unnaturally, the fog pressing closer, curling around trees and telephone poles, pressing at the edges of vision. Shadows leaned toward the road, independent of light, stretching unnaturally. I felt observed, traced in every reflection, every curve of the asphalt. I slowed, the pulsing beneath the tires synchronized with my heartbeat. Each pulse pressed into my chest, low, persistent, almost hypnotic. The fog swirled at the edges of the headlights, shaping itself into faint silhouettes. I glanced at the mirrors, reflections warped, bending unnaturally, showing angles the road didn't possess. The fog reflected there too, moving against the shapes outside, curling around invisible presences. The metallic tang returned, faint, sharp, mingling with the wet scent of asphalt and earth. I exhaled slowly, pressing my palms to the wheel. The pulse beneath me seemed to deepen with each heartbeat, almost sentient. The road waited, watching. I tried to focus on the lanes, on the center line, on anything familiar, but the asphalt rippled faintly beneath the tires, rising and falling like a living creature. The lines bent subtly, shifting rhythmically, bending reality itself in quiet, deliberate ways. Something brushed aside the car. Cold, quick, deliberate. No wind moved. The fog curled around it, leaving only the impression of presence. I glanced outside. Nothing, yet the feeling remained. The hum joined the pulse. Low, metallic, resonating in my chest, threading through the tires, through the road, into the air around me. Every heartbeat echoed in tandem. The rhythm of asphalt, the rhythm of fog, the rhythm of fear. I exhaled again. The fog thickened, curling along the trees, rising from the ditch beside the highway. Shadows stretched across the lines, reaching toward the tires, folding into shapes that dissolved when looked at directly. The road seemed to respond to my speed. Accelerate. The pulse quickened. Brake. The vibration slowed, deliberate, patient, like it knew my intention before I acted. The asphalt itself breathed in tandem with me, inhaling and exhaling, pulsing beneath my tires. I glanced down briefly. The lines of the highway seemed to shift, curling under the headlights, reshaping themselves subtly. The fog moved in tandem, twisting around the edges of the road, hiding the boundaries, erasing what should have been solid. I tried to call out, to break the silence. No sound came. The world outside pressed in silent, heavy, alive. The pulse beneath the tires continued, insistent, deliberate. I realized with a sinking certainty that the road had memory, and I was part of it now. Shadows flitted at the edges of the fog, thin and human-like, but impossible. They didn't chase. They waited, patient, biding their time. I pressed forward. Every mile stretched longer. Every pulse pressed heavier into my chest. The fog swirled, curling around the lines, twisting into shapes just beyond comprehension. The asphalt breathed beneath me, waiting for me to notice it, to acknowledge it. I exhaled slowly, gripping the wheel. The metallic tang faded slightly, leaving only the damp smell of the night, the fog, the living road. The pulse beneath me continued, a quiet, insistent rhythm. Even after the road straightened, even after the fog thinned, I could feel it. The asphalt remembered me. The shadows remembered me. The pulse lingered, threading through my chest long after the tires left the highway. And somewhere, far beneath the surface, the road waited, patient, alive, breathing. The street was empty, silent beneath a fog that clung to the pavement. Headlights cut pale streaks through the mist, trembling slightly with each blink of the road. The air smelled damp and sharp, metallic beneath the faint scent of wet asphalt. A streetlight flickered ahead, slowly, deliberately, every blink revealing and hiding the world beneath it. I slowed, squinting to the fog, feeling a chill press against my neck. Then I saw it, a figure crouched in the distance. Impossible, too still, too low, too human-like to be real. Every blink of the light revealed a little more. Every blink hit it again. I could not tell its shape exactly, could not see its face, could not place its presence entirely. The air shifted. Cold curled around my arms, slipping into the sleeves of my coat. The fog swirled at ankle height, moving against the patterns of the pavement. The figure remained, crouched, patient, hidden in the flicker. I exhaled slowly. Every breath carried the faint metallic tang of night, wet and electric. The streetlight flickered again. The figure shifted, just a fraction, but enough to make my stomach twist. Shadows stretched along the pavement, thin, reaching. They flickered in sync with the light, bending in impossible ways. Each time the bulb blinked out, the darkness seemed thicker, heavier, more aware. I gripped the wheel tighter. The tires whispered on the wet road. Each heartbeat echoed, too loud, too sharp, against the stillness. The fog moved closer, curling over the hood, shaping itself into something aware. I blinked. The figure disappeared for a heartbeat. When the light returned, it had moved slightly closer, close enough that I could sense it, not by sight, but by presence. Cold, patient, watching. I tried to call out. No sound left my throat. The fog pressed against the windshield, thick and insistent. Every blink of the streetlight seemed to synchronize with my pulse. Every blink brought anticipation, dread, and the impossible figure. The shadows lengthened. They reached toward the puddles along the road, folding and stretching independently. The air grew heavy, pressing down as if the fog itself had weight. The metallic tang sharpened, biting, lingering in the corners of my nose. I slowed further. The figure crouched, waiting, hidden between flickers. I could not see its face, could not see its form fully, only the sense of attention, deliberate and patient, pressing in. The streetlight blinked again, and the figure vanished, not slowly, not fading, just gone, as if it had never existed. The fog swirled, curling where it had crouched, leaving the air heavy and silent. I exhaled, trying to steady my racing heart. The street stretched ahead, empty, but impossibly long. Every blink of a distant light hinted at movement just out of reach. The fog whispered softly, brushing against the tires and mirrors, shaping shadows where none should exist. I pressed forward. Every step carried the memory of the figure crouched in the flicker. The cold pressed against me, metallic and sharp. The shadows stretched and twisted in the corners of perception. I realized I would never fully unsee it. Even as the streetlights returned to steady glow, the memory lingered. Every flicker haunted the edges of my vision. Every shadow in the fog seemed to crouch, patient, deliberate, and somewhere just beyond sight, the figure waited. The fog pressed in from all sides, curling around the car like fingers. The highway stretched straight, with asphalt glimmering faintly beneath the headlights. Every shadow along the roadside seemed deliberate, waiting, patient. Then the whispers began, low, metallic, threading through the cabin, not from the engine, not from the tires. Inside my skull, vibrating, resonating with each heartbeat, soft, deliberate, impossible place. I tried to speak. Nothing left my throat. The whispers pressed deeper, curling around my thoughts. Then I realized they were answering me before I spoke. A voice I didn't own, yet somehow mine, threaded into the metallic hum. The fog outside thickened. Shapes flickered in the corner of my vision. Thin, elongated, moving like liquid. Every blink made them vanish. Every blink revealed another shadow, patient, deliberate, impossible. The metallic tang returned, sharp now, biting, mingling with the damp scent of asphalt and fog. I pressed my palms to the wheel. The hum inside my skull pulsed with the rhythm of my heartbeat. I tried to exhale slowly, grounded myself, but the whispers pressing deeper. Every reflection in the mirrors shifted subtly. My own movements appeared delayed, altered, almost mirrored incorrectly. The fog curled against the edges of the car, twisting around shadows that shouldn't exist. Every blink of the headlights reflected shapes that weren't there. I reached the radio. Static hissed, curling inside the cabin. Faint murmurs in an impossible language threaded through the static, echoing the metallic whispers. I didn't understand the words, but I felt their meaning, patient, deliberate, aware. The car hummed faintly beneath my hands, but it was nothing compared to the vibration inside my skull. The whispers threaded into every thought, every memory. I realized I was speaking without sound, thinking aloud without intention. The voice inside me answered before I could form the words. The fog outside twisted again, curling around shadows, bending reality at the edges. A shape hovered briefly alongside the car. Thin, faceless, impossible. It moved in rhythm with the whispers, and then it vanished, leaving only the metallic tang lingering in the cabin. I exhaled slowly. The air pressed heavy inside the car, damp and sharp. Every reflection seemed slightly off, movements slightly delayed. The hum and whispers threaded together, pulsing in my chest, pressing at the back of my skull. I pressed forward cautiously. The road ahead stretched impossibly long, curling subtly beneath the tires. Fog and shadows shifted in tandem, forming shapes just beyond recognition. I could feel them watching, aware, patient. The whispers intensified, threading inside my thoughts, echoing with a metallic hum. Each pulse vibrated through my chest, through my teeth, through the very air around me. I realized I could no longer tell where I ended and the whispers began. I glanced at the mirrors. Nothing tangible, and yet impossible shapes lingered at the edges of perception. The fog pressed in. The metallic tang lingered. The whispers threaded through every corner of my awareness. I slowed. The tires hissed softly on wet asphalt, but it was faint compared to the vibration inside my skull. The shadows shifted alongside the car, patient, deliberate, folding into fog and then reappearing. Every blink, every turn of the head, revealed something new, something that had been waiting, just beyond the edge of sight. I exhaled. The whispers softened, pulsing faintly in the chest, lingering, insistent. I realized they would remain long after I left the highway. Inside my skull, threaded into memory, patient, watching. Even as I drove onward, the metallic tang lingered. The fog thickened in patches, curling around the road, around the tires, around my mind. And somewhere, just beyond sight, the whispers waited, threaded into thought, alive, patient, inescapable. Mist rose from the corn, curling slowly, unnatural, as if it had weight and purpose. It clung to the stalks, drifting between them in silvery coils. The air smelled damp metallic, faintly sharp like wet iron. Shapes flickered inside the mist, human-like but impossibly thin, dissolving whenever I blinked. I could feel eyes on me, patient, following each step. A faint hum vibrated through the field, low and insistent, threading into my chest. The corn whispered softly, brushing my arms with deliberate intent. Every step I took sank into the damp soil, leaving fleeting impressions swallowed by fog. I reached toward one of the shapes. It vanished instantly, leaving only a chill curling along my fingers. The mist thickened, hovering at my shoulders now, pressing against my coat. A soft metallic tang lingered in the air. The shapes were formed further in the fog, circling me without sound, dissolving when I turned. Every instinct screamed to run, but curiosity rooted me, heavy and unrelenting. The hum pulsed in rhythm with my heartbeat. The shapes moved with it, weaving through the mist, patient and deliberate. I realized I wasn't just in the field. I was inside something alive, aware, watching. The fog pressed against my neck, curling like fingers. The shapes hovered near, dissolving when I blinked, reforming just beyond perception. The metallic tang sharpened, biting at my nose, threading into my thoughts. I stepped back toward the road. The mist followed silently, coiling between the stalks, a living presence. Even as I reached the edge, I could feel it lingering, patient, watching. And I knew it would wait for me, in memory, long after the field disappeared behind me. Pale lights flickered between the trunks of the forest. They traced my path with deliberate intent, always staying just behind. When I stopped, they stopped. When I moved, they moved. The air smelled damp and earthy, tinged with metallic sharpness. The fog pressed against the underbrush, curling around roots and fallen leaves. Shadows stretched unnaturally between the trees, folding and shifting independently. I slowed. The lights remained, hovering at eye level, patient, deliberate. A soft hum threaded to the forest, vibrating in my chest, in my teeth, in my skull. Every step I took seemed to echo in the silence. The lights flickered, fading, reappearing, teasing, guiding, observing. I felt shapes move just beyond them, human-like but impossibly thin. Every blink dissolved them, only for them to reappear further along the path. I turned, trying to see them clearly. The lights mirrored my movement, flickering in perfect rhythm. The fog thickened, curling over the trail, hiding the ground beneath my feet. A metallic tang lingered in the air, biting, sharp. The forest itself seemed to breathe, leaning in, patient, waiting. The lights pressed in slightly, narrowing the space around me without sound. Even as I stumbled forward, the lights remained behind. A quiet terror settled deep in my chest. Every shadow stretched, every rustle in the underbrush deliberate. I realized I was being guided, but not led anywhere I could name. The air grew heavy. Every inhale pressed into my lungs with unnatural weight. I could feel it breathing with me, just beyond sight. Shadows stretched and shrank independently, folding into the fog, then unraveling again. The highway curved strangely, impossibly. Trees leaned inward, bending toward me. The metallic tang sharpened, filling my nose and throat with each breath. A low hum vibrated beneath the asphalt and through the air. It matched my heartbeat, threading into my skull. Every shadow in the fog moved to its rhythm. I tried to look away, but the feeling of being observed burrowed into me. Shapes flickered, human-like but wrong, dissolving when I blinked. The fog coiled around them, stretching, folding, patient. I realized I wasn't alone, though no one was visible. I slowed. The air pressed in, heavy, deliberate. Every step forward echoed unnaturally, swallowed by the fog. The shadows followed, patient, observing. I exhaled slowly. The hum persisted, metallic and insistent. The shapes hovered just beyond perception, aware of every heartbeat, every breath. Even when I reached the road, I felt it, pressing, patient, waiting. The familiar roads twisted unnaturally. Curves appeared where straight stretches should have been. Signs flickered, vanished mid-drive, leaving only fog and asphalt. The cornfields stretched endlessly on either side. I realized the world around me had shifted. Distances warped, paths looped back impossibly, and nothing looked the same twice. Shadows press against the fog, patient, deliberate. They detach from the trees, from the stalks, moving just beyond perception. Every blink revealed more of the impossible shapes. The metallic tang lingered, sharper now, biting at my senses. I exhaled slowly. Every instinct told me to stop, to turn back. But the roads offered no answer. I pressed forward cautiously. Every step brought a twist, a fold, a loop. The fog thickened, curling around the cornfields like fingers, leading me deeper. Even as I drove, I realized I was being watched. Patiently, indistinct, and the vanishing path stretched on forever, pulling me forward into memory, into the unknown. Puddles reflected figures that weren't there. Ripples moved across the water, though no wind disturbed it. The fog pressed close, silver gray and suffocating. I leaned forward slightly, trying to see clearly. Each reflection moved differently than I did. Shapes twisted, elongated, impossible. Some mirrored me. Some mirrored nothing I had ever known. The metallic tang lingered in the air. It mixed with the wet scent of asphalt and soil. Every reflection pulsed faintly, in time with a low hum threading through my chest. I blinked. The puddles shifted. Figures moved in impossible ways, folding and bending across the water's surface. I could feel their awareness, patient, deliberate, observing. The fog curled at my ankles, wrapping around the reflections. Every ripple seemed intentional, deliberate, as if the world itself remembered me. The asphalt beneath the tires hummed faintly, synchronizing with the pulsing figures. I exhaled slowly. The shapes shimmered. I realized I could not distinguish between reflection and reality. The mist, the puddles, the fog, all consumed the world I thought I knew. Even as I drove onward, the memory lingered. The reflections remained in my mind. Every blink reminded me. Every puddle held something impossible. The fog thickened at the edge of the field. Every step I took pressed softly into damp soil. The metallic tang lingered faintly, biting at my nose, threading into my thoughts. Then I saw it, a humanoid silhouette, standing perfectly still at the fog's edge. Not moving, not breathing visibly, just present, watching. The air grew heavier. The fog pressed close, curling around my arms, neck, legs. No sound came from the figure. No hum, no whisper. Nothing but its presence, patient, deliberate, suffocating in its quiet. I tried to step closer. The figure did not move. The fog shifted around it, hiding details, revealing impossibilities. Every instinct screamed at me, yet curiosity held me rooted. Shadows bent toward it, stretching and twisting independently. The metallic tang sharpened, pressing along my tongue and teeth. I felt awareness in the fog, in the field, in the still night. The figure drained sound and warmth, leaving only the pressure of its gaze. I exhaled slowly. It remained, patient, silent, not waiting, not chasing, simply existing, a memory etched into the fog. I stepped back carefully. The figure did not follow. The air remained heavy, pressing. Even from the road, I could feel it, still at the edge of perception. Patient, watching. The corn whispered as I walked. A soft hum lingered among the stalks, a lullaby that felt familiar, yet wrong. The fog curled low, damp and heavy, pressing against my boots and coat. The melody moved slowly, deliberate, threading through the mist. Every note carried a weight, familiar in memory, but twisted, distorted. I shivered. The metallic tang lingered faintly in the soil. Shadows flickered between the stalks, then elongated, patient. They moved with the rhythm of the hum, dissolving when I blinked, returning with perfect patience. I tried to step lightly. The soil clung to my boots. The hum pressed inside my skull, weaving with the rhythm of my heartbeat. The corn swayed as if alive, brushing my arms with deliberate intent. I felt eyes in stalks, not bright or glowing, just aware, watching, waiting. The lullaby pulsed, soft and calming, but wrong. The false comfort twisted, curling in the chest, leaving unease lingering beneath my skin. I exhaled slowly. The mist curled around my legs, the stalks, the path ahead. The hum persisted, patient, deliberate. Every note pressed in, threading through my thoughts, threading into memory. Even as I left the field, the lullaby lingered, soft, wrong, patient, and I knew it would follow me long after the fog swallowed the corn. Lights formed a circle around me in the field, pale, hollow, pulsing softly, deliberately. The fog wrapped the stalks in silver-gray coils, curling toward the glow. I stepped forward. Gravity seemed to waver slightly beneath my feet. The ground hummed faintly metallic, threaded through the soles of my boots. Shapes flickered inside the fog, human-like, but impossible, elongated, dissolving when I blinked. The glow pulsed in rhythm with my heartbeat, deliberate and hypnotic. The metallic tang sharpened, pressing into the air, into the fog, into my chest. Every step I took echoed softly, swallowed by the thick mist, threading toward the lights. They pulsed slowly, deliberately, patient, observing. I reached the edge of the circle. The glow intensified. The ground beneath me seemed to lift slightly, bending reality. I felt myself weightless for a heartbeat, drifting in the pale light. Shadows moved at the edges of the glow. Faint, impossible, aware. I exhaled slowly. The fog coiled around the stalks and my boots. The circle remained. Patient, hollow, alive. Even as I stepped back toward the road, the memory clung. The lights, the pulse, the weightless drift, all lingering, impossible, patient. Road signs vanished mid-drive. The familiar became alien, twisting, bending in ways I couldn't comprehend. Fog pressed against the windshield, thick and suffocating. The asphalt pulsed faintly beneath the tires, alive, aware. The metallic tang lingered in the air, sharper than ever. Shadows stretched along the roadside, independent of light, moving in impossible ways. I slowed. Every mile stretched longer, looping back subtly. The familiar roads disappeared entirely, replaced by winding paths I didn't recognize. The fog thickened, curling over the tires, over the edges, swallowing landmarks. The hum returned, low and metallic, threading through my chest. Shapes flickered at the edge of perception. Thin, patient, deliberate. Every blink revealed more, then vanished again, leaving only memory. I realized the highway had changed. It was no longer familiar. Every turn, every line, every shadow seemed to wait for me, patient, observing, alive. Even as I pressed forward, the fog consumed the world, leaving only asphalt, shadows, and the low hum threading through my skull.